Hello everyone, my name is Curtis White from Beyond Backtesting, that is B Backtesting Twitter, and this is part 2 of Advanced GPT3. So if you haven't watched the first part, go back and watch it. This is what I've got it here. The first, I said in the first part, must watch for GPT-3, prompt engineering and coding enthusiasts. I follow up to Giorgio Rubino's LLM weather agent Python callback question. That's a lot, I know. And I demonstrate, really here's the key, I demonstrate the raw power of interactive prompting with my GPT Anywhere interface. And in a coding environment versus a chat environment, you can enable these LLMs to do things they normally can't do, such as mathematics, things that would normally get wrong, comparisons, and all things of that nature. So if you need that type of a stuff, then I think you'll be very impressed with what I've created with and what you'll see there. But also, I do show how to do some stub outs for some functions so some actual code to be used in that YouTube as well. But we don't get to actually the real world coding. And in this YouTube, I'm going to show how to do real world coding, advanced coding without writing any code. This is pretty impressive even to myself as a senior software engineer of many years that this is possible today. And I'm going to show how we interface to an actual weather API and get the AI artificial intelligence agent to write the code for us, and then how we interface to it in our interactive environment to get real time weather. Now, one thing you're going to want to do if you're following along with this example is you're going to want to go to weatherapi.com, create an account, and get an API key. Now, I'm hiding my API key here, and because if I reveal it by accident, which I have a couple times, I have to restart the video, so I'm going to probably clip this part off and then start the next part because it's just so easy to reveal. If I make one little mistake, I reveal the API key, and you don't want to do that. You don't want to reveal your private API keys. This key is good for many, I think thousands of requests. So this is a good API for testing and experimenting. There's other weather APIs out there that you can certainly look at, but this is the one I found that I felt that was best suited for this demonstration. So that's weatherapi.com, and then you're going to go to the Interactive API Explorer, and I'm going to show you that more in a moment. Now, one thing you're going to be able to do once you have created your key and have registered, this again free for so many requests per month, you're going to want to go to the weatherapi.com API Explorer, and you're going to be able to click the show response to actually generate a response and experiment with some of the different queries. And so that's how I was able to determine that it could actually accept this type of format with the city state. And I think it actually supports city, just plain city as well. Now I have to be very careful here not to reveal my key, because in the function call below, it actually reveals my key. So let me pause this again, and I'll be right back. Okay, so one of the nice things it does is you can actually call the API and then get back the response here. And this is very key because here's the JSON response. Now, if we were coding in traditional way, if you look at this JSON response, I'd have to think about, are these objects, are these JSON strings? How do I interface with these? What are the return types? All these things, right? But this is the very cool part about programming with AI. All I actually have to do, all I did in this case is I copy this, okay? I'm going to show you what I did with it, okay? So I'm going to copy all this and I'm going to paste it in my code. Then I'm going to add some comments and actually generate the code. And here's something I think you're really going to enjoy. Instead of giving you the 10,000 foot clean view, right, as I remembered it, this replit.com environment actually has a history, and I'm actually going to scroll through the history to show you exactly what I did, which is, I think, is going to be really cool. So the first thing I did was I copied and pasted in the URL for the API endpoint into my environment, and it actually exposed the key in the URL. So I removed that key, and this is what I've just did that. So I don't want to reveal my key. And there's this replit.com environment has a secrets, which is just like a dictionary or a key value store, and I'm going to reference it from that key value store. So that's the first thing I'm doing. I've copied in the URL, and I'm changing that key with a placeholder value, so I don't reveal the key, and so I can go forward from this point. And so the next thing I'm doing is I'm going to prompt GPT-3 using my GPT Anywhere interface to generate some code here. Okay, so I'm going to say write a Python function to call this API. Okay, now here's where the What did I do there? Oh, I hit the wrong button there by chance. So here is where the really cool thing comes in. And I say, and extract the following fields. So what I've done here is I've pasted in that JSON. And then what I'm going to start doing, I'm going to start deleting the JSON that I don't need. Now, I deleted too much because as we see here, I deleted the temperature. So I'm going to go back and do this again. But at this point, I don't know that. And extract the following fields, okay, from the returned JSON format. Okay, so this is I've hit my control enter here, and I've generated now it's generated this get weather data function. Okay, and what's nice about it is I didn't have to, if you think about it, and from traditional programming, if I was going to process this JSON, I would have to think about, is this a JSON dictionary? Is this an array? Is this, what structure is this in? Is this an object? And that takes a lot of time. And it's often tedious. So at least within C#, this was pretty much just instantaneous, right? I'm getting back just the data I need. Now the next thing I'm doing is I'm using our initial stub out function. I'm doing some imports here that it imported for the API call. I'm just typing that stuff in. But one of the things I'm going to utilize the original. So this is the, as I was referring to, this replit.com has this secrets file, and this os.get environment is just getting our key. I'm just storing that key into that secrets compartment, so I don't reveal it. If you were doing this in a private environment, you could simply leave that as text, or however you wanted to store it, put it in a text file, or however you want to do it. This is essentially just a string. This is just a dictionary lookup, but it allows me to avoid disclosing my key, okay? And I'm importing I just imported this OS and request. That was part of the requirements for the get weather data and for the key. And now what I've done is I went back to my get weather description, and I've just copied and pasted in the key and the retrieval of the key and the weather data to call this function. Now, I'm not a big fan of passing too much stuff in functions, but for this demonstration, that's fine. And so one thing as well that's very interesting is I don't have to wonder about exactly the format. If the exact layering of the data I need from the JSON, because it generated it for me, and all I have to do is copy and paste it, which is very nice. So all I did was copy this right here, and then I just pasted it in. Now, I did make one mistake here. I think I mentioned it, but if I didn't, I deleted too many fields. So I'm going to have to go back and do this again, because you see here, there's no temperature. Okay, so I'm going to figure that out in a moment. But right now, I'm just working with this right here, seeing if it works, and I'm writing the reference into it to this dictionary JSON, whatever this is. Well, I guess it's a response JSON. And now I realized at this point, that I don't have the temperature, and I started to copy and paste it in and try to figure it out how it went. But I said, no, I'm just going to copy and paste everything back in, and now I'm deleting everything again that I don't need. But this time I'm being more mindful to keep in the stuff that I might want. Okay, and I did do a little. Here is the API did the GPT model returned beyond, it didn't complete. So I'm going to have to go back and select everything again and just hit it again to get the completion. So I got my completion there, and I'm commenting this stuff out, okay? Now this returned in a slightly different format, or in a different format than the previously. I'm going to figure that out in a moment. But this time I probably don't. Let's see if I recognize that immediately. It looks like I did. That it's in a different format, and I have to figure out that new. Have to look at that new format. So in this case, it just returns it in a dictionary, and it doesn't do any sub objects or anything. It's a little different format. So all I'm doing here now is I'm going to show some examples for referencing it. I think I had some errors or something here when I tried to run it. I don't remember exactly. but I'm asking it to, show how you reference the fields. And here it's created examples that I can copy from, right? Here, let me show you again. So it created an example for the temperature in Celsius, temperature in Fahrenheit, all that good stuff. And so I'm just going to copy this into, I'm just copying and pasting this up here so I can reference it. And again, I'm using the initial stub out functions, but I'm just calling the real function now with inside these stub out functions. One thing that's a little different is the actual function doesn't require, it only has one field for city and state, or just city. It doesn't make that clear. I was able to submit city and state to it, but so I'm concatenating the strings now because I don't change the initial interface that we created. And this I don't program in Python a lot. I'm a little bit unclear. Here I was having trouble with some errors and stuff, and it took me a moment to realize that they were, I didn't leave a space there, so that's probably, it couldn't find the location, which was causing an error. And so that's it, okay, and that's the finished code. So we'll go through this again. So we have our initial stub out function. We call the get weather data API inside the stub out function, and we created this get weather data API without any coding by utilizing the JSON response, and by clever prompting, we were able to actually generate this entire function. So this is pretty impressive coming from my experience as a software engineer. I've never seen anything quite like this, or I did not know that it existed. I mean, I knew that when I tried GitHub Copilot, I was on the beta list for the GitHub Copilot, and I had seen that really hyped up on social media and the YouTube and all. And when I first got it, and maybe it was just my luck with working with it, but maybe it was my luck, but I couldn't get anything interesting out of it. And I was like, I don't see how this is going to improve your coding at all. I was like, that was my experience with it. Might have just been a bad experience because it was early to beta. But this, you can see the power of this, especially when dealing with APIs and things where there's a lot of, the code is relatively simple, but where there's a lot of potential for errors dealing with, fields and extraction and data formats. So that's pretty much it. That's how I generated code. You can see how much code I actually wrote compared to what was generated. And you can see it was, I probably didn't write more than a line or two of code on this. So this is how you generate, how I was able to generate, real world code with my GPT Anywhere, just by prompting and giving it examples. And so that concludes this, and I hope this was as interesting as it was for me. Thanks.